Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Today, I'm talking about Alabama football's major pipeline, which is the state of Alabama. Did you know, since 2016, Alabama has signed, get this, 30 players from the state of Alabama. And during the first signing day, which was in late December, Nick Saban talked about the importance of recruiting extremely well within a 5-hour radius of the University of Alabama.
Well, it's always important to do well in state. You know, it's always important to do well in a 5-hour radius. And, we want to get every Alabama player that we can. I think it means a lot to them when they come to Alabama. And I think that's an important part of the spirit of your team. And I feel good about the guys from the state that we have. I mean, really. Hopefully, I know those guys are excited about coming here, and hopefully we'll be able to develop those guys, and they'll be very productive and be a big part of, the spirit of this class.
Now, from the class of 2020, the Crimson Tide signed 8 prospects from the state of Alabama: Quindarius Robinson, Roydell Williams, Christian Story, Jackson Bratton, Javon Cohen, Jamarian Lathan, Demoy Kennedy, and Malachi Moore. All those guys, great additions from the class of 2020. And those guys will be true freshmen. And those guys will get their playing time. The new NCAA rule allows players to play 4 games and still save their redshirt year. So I'm not exactly sure how these guys are doing right now, as the fourth quarter program just started at the University of Alabama. That means the fourth quarter program is when these players get in, work out with Scott Cochran before they really start to go forward into spring football, which will start towards the middle of March. Now, currently on the roster, you have Pierce Quick, Paul Tyson, Talia Tungavailoa, Amari Kite, Will Reichard, and DJ Dell. Those guys are from 2019. And we saw a few of those guys get onto the field during the 2019 season. DJ Dell was a starter who emerged as a defensive tackle. Will Reichard played in the beginning of the season before suffering a hip flexor injury. So I know a lot of people are excited about Will Reichard coming back and seeing what he can do during his now sophomore season at Alabama. DJ Dell, of course, is a guy that Alabama really is going to need to lean on in the defensive trenches as he comes back for his sophomore season. And then when you look at some other now freshman, sophomore from the class of 2019, could it be Pierce Quick who rises up and gets some playing time on the offensive line? Maybe spot play a little bit. You have Talia Tungavailoa and Paul Tyson as younger quarterbacks now on the roster. You have Amari Kite, who looks like a very good offensive tackle down the road. Now, when we look back at the class of 2018, Alabama just signed 2, and that's been the lowest number that Nick Saban has recruited from the state of Alabama or signed during his tenure. You have Jalen Armour Davis from the class 2018, and he could be a guy who actually starts this season for the Crimson Tide, depending on how well he does during the springtime at the corner position. And then you have Michael Parker as well out of the class 2018, who's a tight end. Now, when we look at the class of 2017, there could be some rising stars in that group. You have Brian Robinson, who could share time or at least get more playing time at the running back position along with Najee Harris. Brian Robinson, right out of Hillcrest in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, saw plenty of time, and he's a guy that Nick Saban really likes, and it'll be interesting to see how Brian Robinson is used because, as you know, Alabama's backfield is certainly stacked with big-time talent and a lot of young guys. You got Trey Sanders, who looks to be healthy, and Najee Harris, who looks like one of the best running backs in all of college football. So how much playing time is Brian Robinson going to get in 2020? Guess we'll have to see. You have Darius Townsend, who's also from that class of 2017. Now, he's a guy that actually participated with the running backs during the 2019 season. He's also seen time with the receivers. I would expect, just because of the depth at Alabama at the running back position, you slide Darius Townsend back to the receivers. I think he's more a receiver in general, so he's another guy. You have Marquel Benton at the inside linebacker position out of Phoenix City, a guy who could play a little bit more this coming season. Of course, you have Dylan Moses and Joshua McMillan and the 2 young guns, Shane Lee and Christian Harris, who played a lot at the inside linebacker position. Henry Ruggs was actually part of that 2017 class out of Montgomery, and now, look, he's headed to the NFL draft, and a lot of people are wondering how fast is he going to run the 40 at the NFL draft, right? Some people are even saying 4.1. Can you believe that? 4.1. So Henry Ruggs should certainly win the 40-time award at the NFL draft. Kyrie Mcdonald transferred to Cincinnati. He was part of that 2017 class of Brian Ray. And when you talk breakout players and guys that should really break through during the 2020 season. I think LeBron Ray could be one of those guys who's dealt with an injury during last season, a foot injury, but Alabama needs some of these defensive linemen to really rise up, and LeBron Ray could be that guy in 2020. I think he will be that guy in 2020. Hunter Brannon, also part of the class in 2017. Now, when we look to the class of 2016, there's some interesting findings here, okay? You have Quinnen Williams, right, who got paid. He was a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Out of that class 2016, you also have TJ Simmons, who actually transferred to West Virginia. You have Mack Wilson, who left after his junior season, got some playing time with the Cleveland Browns. And then you have Sean Jennings, who transferred out of Alabama. And then these two guys are still on the roster from 2016. Deonte Brown and Ben Davis. Ben Davis finally be a senior at Alabama. And is Ben Davis going to finally get on the field for the Crimson Tide? I know a lot of people continue to ask our staff, ask the Twitter world, ask social media, is this the year of Ben Davis? What is Alabama going to do with Ben Davis? I mean, he was a 5-star coming out of high school, right? A lot to live up to. We'll see if Ben Davis can really get on the field in 2020. I know he had a quarterback sack last year against Mississippi State. Maybe somehow he can get onto the field for the Crimson Tide. I think when you look at Deonte Brown, he's a guy that will certainly start at offensive guard for the Crimson Tide. He did a great job last year, especially in run game situations. I mean, he's just a big boy, right? 340, 50 pounds. So when you look at the numbers, Alabama signed 30, and just so important to take care of your own backyard. Now, you're probably wondering, which other pipelines does Alabama go after? And the next two, actually, since 2016, Florida and Texas. Florida being number 2, signing 20 total signees from the Sunshine State. Dow Jones-Bell, Aquez Robinson, and Timothy Smith are the new additions from the class of 2020. And of course, from 2019, you had 2 5-stars, Trey Sanders and Evan Neal. Evan Neal is a guy who started every single game last year for the Crimson Tide at the guard position. You also have Jordan Battle, who saw playing time as a freshman. Even Braylon Ingram saw playing time for the Crimson Tide during the 2019 season. And when you look at 2018 from the state of Florida, you have Patrick Surtain. You had Jerome Ford, who recently transferred out. You have Xavier Williams. You have Stephon Wynn. And then when you go to 2017, look at these names from the state of Florida. Jerry Jeudy, Dylan Moses, Alex Leatherwood, Jerez Parks, Darius Cohen. Remember, Cohen transferred out. Jerez Parks still on the roster. And also from the class 2017, Mac Jones, who's probably the favorite to be the quarterback. You have Daniel Wright, who could probably play some safety this year for the Crimson Tide. You have Thomas Fletcher, who's a long snapper. So there are a lot of names from 2017 from the state of Florida. And then third most signees, when you look at the pipelines, is the state of Texas, who Alabama has signed 13 names from the state of Texas since 2016. In 2020, Alabama signed 3. Jace McClellan, who everyone is excited about in the running back position, was formerly committed to Oklahoma. You have Drew Sanders, who's an athlete. A lot of people really excited about Drew Sanders. Damian George, who finally signed in February. Monster of a man, 6'7", 340 pounds, something like that, will be an offensive tackle. From the class 2019 from Texas, you have Marcus Banks, Scooby Carter, guys who could get on the field during the 2020 season. They still might be a season away. I know Scooby Carter was in the transfer portal. Now he's not. I think it's important to keep Scooby Carter because I really do like his ability on the field, especially in that safety or corner or star. I mean, he's just a versatile player. So I think it's really important to keep Scooby Carter on the roster. And then from the class 2018, they signed just one player from Texas, okay? And that was Jalen Waddle. Very big pickup in picking up Jalen Waddle. We've talked about Jalen Waddle before. Most dangerous player could be in all of college football if used right. And then you look at 2017, Alabama from Texas signed Kedrick James, Terrell Shavers, Major Tennyson. And then from the class of 2016 out of the state of Texas, Maiden, Kendall Jones, Jalen Hurts, and Chris Owens. So when you look at the pipelines overall, the biggest pipeline for Alabama is the state of Alabama, which I think is phenomenal and so important moving forward. I think that speaks volume, especially to the coaches from the state of Alabama at the high school level. These guys are getting their players ready, and you see players playing from Alabama on Saturdays, right? These guys aren't just being signed on to the team, you know, just to make it look good for Nick Saban. No, guys from Alabama play at Alabama, and then Florida, of course, and then Texas. Other pipeline states include Georgia, the DMV area. Maryland has a ton of guys that Alabama's always going after. So, well, thanks for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video on the recruiting pipeline states for the Crimson Tide. Be sure and give us a like, a thumbs up, and continue to subscribe for content coming your way right here on BamaInsider.com. From Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com.